What's up, Bobby? How you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. We're back for another episode of the Bengal Brothers podcast, and I'm Reg. This is Bengal Bob, one of my brothers, and man, the Bengals are 1-4, and yeah, let's dive into it, man.
Sounds good.
What are your overall thoughts on the weekend? And yeah, before we get into anything specific, anything you want to touch on?
This game was probably top five on my all-time, top five Bengal games. I mean, it ranks up there. It's just unfortunate the way it ended.
Yeah, I think this might be a candidate for game of the year already.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Unfortunately, the Bengals were the ones who came up short, and games like this, especially division games, battles, this was about as tough of a loss as it gets, I think, outside of a playoff game or something like that. I mean, this was gut-wrenching.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow said that he had to play damn near perfect, and he pretty much did. I mean, he had the one interception, but
yeah,
I mean, he played about as good as you could play. 38 points. You should win that game.
Well, bringing up Burrow, we can go ahead and talk about the offense. Obviously, if you're new to the podcast, actually, first, the past few weeks have been weird for us, right? So we're live every Tuesday night, 8:30. So if you're watching this as a VOD in the days after Tuesday night on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, then we weren't live the week before last because we had some technical issues. Our live was suspended. And then this past week we had the same issues and our episode was taken down. So we're battling against the algorithm system right now. But we're back, and this is our regular night, Tuesdays at 8:30. Make sure you come through and talk ball with us. So
yeah, we appreciate you.
Getting into the offense, man. I mean, I think that's probably what's the most disappointing and like gut-wrenching of all of this is that the offense that Joe Burrow, Chase, Zach Taylor, Dan Pitcher, the offensive staff are off to their best start under Burrow and Zach, and the team's 1-4. I mean, there's about three games this year that if we read off the stats for Burrow and Chase or the offense in general, you'd be like, that was for sure a win. So
well, and speaking of that, it kind of goes against the history of football, because if you look back at the history and you say you take our last three games, history tells you that team would have won all three of those games. And unfortunately, we've been on the opposite side of that. It's like going against the grain, which is just, I mean, it's mind-blowing. As good as we played, I mean, and that's just not under the Burrow era. I personally believe this could be one of the best offenses in Cincinnati history. I mean, that's the pace that they've set the past 3 weeks. I mean, Burrow's on absolute fire. I mean, just to rattle off, he's sixth in passing yards, but he's not too far from number one in that. Second in yards per attempt, 7.9. Second in completion percentage, 72.2%. Number one in touchdowns. Tied for second in fewest interceptions with 2. Number one quarterback rating, 113.6. Plus he's number one in completions of 40-plus yards. Like, I mean, I don't know how much better he can play. Jamar Chase on the other side of that. He's second in receiving yards, tied for first in touchdowns with 5. Third in 20-plus yard catches, first in 40-plus yard catches with 4 of them. 2 more than the next closest guy. And he's number one in yards after catch. Like, and unfortunately, I feel like Burrow the past few weeks is, he's definitely a team guy. He's not called out the defense. If anything, he's saying shit to help protect his defense and his players. But clearly, we'll get into defense later, but I don't know how much better this offense can play. I mean, they're already, playing at a championship caliber.
To add to your point, the offense over as a whole is 5th in passing, 9th in total yards, and 4th in points scored this season. So 3 major statistics that year in and year out you can bank on the success of a team. The Bengals are top 5 in 2 of those categories, top 10 in the other. And you just listed off all the Burrow stats. If they won this game on Sunday, the Bengals would only be 2-3, but Burrow would be in the MVP discussion because they would have been two wins in a row of the statistics he's putting up, the numbers he's put up, just the missed field goal, just whatever play throughout the game or series of plays you think cost the Bengals this game. Those series handful of plays, that single play is the difference in the Bengals being 2-3 with 1 win in the division and Burrow probably leading MVP discussion, or at least in the discussion of top 3 or 4 quarterbacks, and the Bengals now sitting at 1-4 with a 6% chance to make the playoffs, and nobody talking about Burrow being in the discussion because the Bengals can't win. So that just shows you the minute difference from week to week the games. I mean, the Bengals coming into this game had 3 losses by 12 points. So now you're looking at, 4 losses by 15 points.
Right. I mean, they're literally a botched, placeholder. I mean, he botched the hold off of the snap, and then you have the pass interference against the Chiefs that, was pass interference, but, I mean, they're literally just 2 plays away from, like you said, being 3-2. Now, there's been a lot of discussion this week on, things that should have been done or could have been done, change the outcome of this game. This week, it's one of the things that bug me about Bengals fans is they're so quick to turn on this team. I mean, they're so quick. I've heard fire Duke Tobin this week, fire Zach Taylor, fire Lou Anarumo. This is all Tobin's fault or this is all Taylor's fault. I mean, and let's be real here. The offense that's averaging 33 plus points a game in the last 3 games, this offense was built by Duke Tobin in the front office and in their drafting. So, they haven't gotten it all wrong. Yeah, we've had some defensive players not work out, but we'll get into that later. I thought Zach called a great game against the Ravens. I mean, they hit every formation you can think of, plenty of motions. I I just thought overall he called a great game. I think Zach, to me, made one major mistake, and that was in overtime, because clearly they had decided that they were just going to run the ball, line this kick up and go for it. And I feel like his fatal mistake there was if that's what you were going to do from the get-go, and, because a lot of people, they should have thrown the ball. Personally, I think Burrow's been hot. Chase has been hot the whole game. I think personally they should have tried to throw the ball on those last 3 downs, but I'm not an NFL coach. But I feel like if you were going to make that decision, which they clearly did, then you have to try to go for that kick on 3rd down. And then if there is an issue, fall on the ball, you get another retry. And unfortunately, he didn't make that move, and he took the field goal shot on 4th down when you really didn't do shit on the first 3 downs. I think that was his biggest.
Only one positive play. Right. Honestly, I agree with everything you just said, brother. And, I think that football's very weird. Like, first off, I want to start with what you started with as well. And that was the fan base. And I said this a few weeks ago on the podcast. I can't even objectively be mad when the Bengals lose because I have to go on social media. I don't have to, obviously, but I go on social media and I end up defending this team to half of the fan base who want to burn the bridge, blow everything up. And my question to those people, and this is rhetorical, to the people who are watching this in the coming days who are heavily on the, fire Zach Taylor, fire Duke Tobin, fire Lou Anarumo, whatever it is you feel needs to be changed heavily, dramatically right now. How do you get better? How does, if you go and you fire Zach today, well, guess what? There's 20 to 25 teams around the NFL. Them and their fans are having the same discussions we're having every week. They're having the same discussions about their defense, or maybe on their case, it's their offense, about coaching, about a position group. Fans and teams around the league are all dealing with the same thing. They're all dealing with injuries, and they're all dealing with, I don't know, the ins and outs of winning and losing in the NFL. Because every fan base has toxic fans. Every fan base has people who are going to question things no matter what. I literally will be on X and I will see Chiefs fans questioning Andy Reid. Why didn't Andy call this game? I promise you, you don't know more than Andy and Patrick and the guys in the offensive staff room. You don't know more than Zach and Burrow and Dan Pitcher. They literally do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, are any of those guys perfect? No, not even close. And I agree with you going into the second part of that. We can sit here and have open discussions about how things can be better. We can look at football objectively and say, this, and this has to be better, right? And it's easy for people out there who watch games week in and week out. How often do people go back and actually watch that game again? I know a lot of fans are going to lie and say, I do. I watch highlights. I watch this. Okay. But how often do you go back and you watch some of the games in the earlier season, the regular season games against lesser opponents, or big games, big moments, the plays that didn't make the highlight clip because there wasn't a big catch or a touchdown on that play? Nobody does. And why is that? Because at the end of the day, people care about the entertainment aspect of their game. People aren't as nose deep into the X's and O's as everybody is. A big portion of the fans out there, they know a lot about football, but they know a lot about watching football. They don't know a lot about what goes on in those locker rooms. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I know what it's like in an NFL locker room, but guess what? 99% of people don't. And the reason is because what happens in those locker rooms and those meetings and those things, 99% of it doesn't make it out. And I promise you watching out there, the people that sit there and they say, we should have done this, we should have done this, we should have done this. Well, let's review those last 3 drives of the game on Sunday. 2 before overtime and 1 in overtime. The 2 before overtime, both those drives were coming after a possession that the Ravens went down and scored. So the Bengals' only objective was to answer, to be aggressive and answer. What did they do? They put the ball in Burrow's hands. They literally, the first drive, they were cooking. Cooking. They're moving downfield. The receivers were having good situational awareness, getting in bounds. We ran a couple of draws at big key passing moments, and then Burrow throws the interception. Chase runs a sort of a deeper route than he needed to. He took responsibility for it. Burrow took responsibility for it. The drive ends. The next drive, the second to last drive of the game, the last drive before overtime, the Ravens had just cut the lead. Guess what? You got to be aggressive. You got to throw the ball. That's what they did. They put the ball in Burrow's hands, right? And both those drives, that's what they should have been doing. Even though I'm actively on X, I'm actively reading the real opinions of fans out there. And people are saying, run the ball and close the game out. Run the ball and close the game out. Well, guess what? The run game had been shit all game for the most part. It wasn't hitting like it had been hitting the past 3 weeks. And Burrow was literally dicing them up. So they kept the ball in his hands. That the third to the last in an interception, that drive, what happens? First
down, big sack.
Big sack completely derails the drive. The second down, yes, we could sit here and argue, like Coach Ray, if he was here, he thinks that second and 15 should have been a draw play. Okay, let's say it is a draw play and it gets 5, 7, 8 yards. It's a successful one. That's still third and long, which is what they were in regardless. So you got to throw the ball and 3 and out. The Ravens go down. You go to overtime, your last drive of the game. You have 2 options. You do what you did the 2 previous drives. You put the ball in Burrow's hands, and you say, we have a chance to go close this game out, right? I completely understand that argument. You've already done that 2 drives. The counter to that is you have a borderline Pro Bowl kicker who has been extremely clutch. 99% of teams in this situation, in the history of the NFL, are going to run the ball 3 times to line it up for a kick. You hope that one of those plays pops for a first down or for 5, 6, 7, 8 yards. Well, guess what? Zach chose the conservative route, which again, we can sit here and argue, but that's not the norm. That's not out of the norm. That's what coaches have done in the history of football.
That's
if it's
pretty typical.
A field goal wins it. If you got a good kicker, yes, no one wants to settle for a 53-yard field goal, but first down run got stuffed, second down run got like 3 or 4 yards, then you get stuffed again. If just one of those 3 plays pops for 7 or 8 yards, suddenly it's a 45-yard field goal. And it changes the dynamic. And nobody questions that you ran the ball. You did what everybody else has done, what people traditionally do. But because 3 runs were unsuccessful, then you have the botched snap and the missed field goal. Suddenly it's everybody's, well, why were we not putting the ball in Burrow's hands? Well, we did that 2 drives to close out the game and it didn't hit. We can argue that we should have done that anyway, but we took the conservative route to win the game, because if Burrow throws the ball and throws an interception, or you take a sack and you go back to a 65-yard field goal, the game's over.
Right.
So by running the ball, you're at least giving yourself a chance to win no matter what, barring a fumble.
Because Money Max, McPherson's been great at 50 plus.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think there's just.
Yeah, no, it infuriates me because people don't look at it like from that perspective. Instead, the rap reaction is people like Joe Goodberry, who's traditionally an advocate for this franchise. You coward motherfucker. Called everybody a bunch of coward motherfuckers. You know what I mean? I get you're upset, you're frustrated, and you're angry, but my point is just that when half of the bottomless pit of the bad fans are instantly wanting to implode the franchise, because I get it, you're emotional, you're frustrated. That's where I am too. But the season's not over.
Right.
So what are we going to do? Fire Zach? Again, my original point. You fire Zach this week, and you're just like the Jets who fired their coach today. What are you doing tomorrow? You think you're going to win the next 4 or 5 games before you play the Ravens if you fire Zach? No.
Nope.
Too much dysfunction. At least right now you have a chance to go on, win the next 4 games, and be above 500 when you play the Ravens again.
Right. I mean, ideally, we'll be sitting here, the Wednesday or the Tuesday night before the Thursday night game against the Ravens in Baltimore, and we're sitting at 5-4.
Let's hope that's where we're at.
That can very well happen.
The difference is going to be how this group plays.
Right. And I tell you, this group, here's the shitty thing about it, is there's a big chance we're not, from a player and schematic standpoint, we're not going to be able to fix this defense till the offseason. I mean, traditionally, the Bengals don't make moves for the trade deadline, even though I see the perfect opportunity this year and need to make moves. But there's a good chance this defense won't be fixed until the offseason. I mean, if things keep progressing, I guess there could be a slim chance that they would let go of Lou Anarumo. I don't see that happening in the middle of the season. Guys have to play better. They have to play better, which, guys have, we've seen a little more from the defensive line this week. I mean, really, in all intents and purposes, they held Lamar Jackson and King, whatever you want to call him, to like 92 yards and through the first 4 quarters, not including overtime. I thought they did one of the best jobs for a team that came in this game averaging 220 plus rushing yards a game, to hold Lamar and him to under 100 yards and through 4 quarters. I thought was impressive by the defense. But then on the back end, it was explosive play after explosive play. It was, you can get your hands on Lamar, but you can't finish it off. You can't finish his ass off and get him on the ground. I want to hear how you feel about it, but after that, I think there's some moves to be made here for this defense. If there's ever been a time for the Bengals to do something before the trade deadline. It is now. It is now. This is the last year of T. This is supposed to be your last dance for this team. We're supposed to go get one this year, and I think that can still happen even at 1-4. I honestly do, because if we can get into the dance, we all know Burrow is, goes to another level, takes it up a notch.
Right.
There's guys out there, like, let's say for the Jets, for instance, they just fired their coach. Things are becoming a shitstorm quickly there. You have Hassan Reddick that there's a deal to be made to pick him up on a trade. New England, what's his name? What is his name? Jonathan Jones, the corner. He's probably just as good, if not better, than any corner on our team right now. There's a deal to be made there. Miami, you need some pass rush. You need someone else on that line to get some really good pass rush. I know Calais Campbell's 38 years old, but he is still playing top-notch football. I mean, I think if they could get some help on the line and get some help in that secondary and some other players step up, all we got to be is an average defense, Reggie. I think all we got to be is just an average defense with this offense, and we can get back to being a serious Super Bowl contender. But I feel like if they don't make the moves and guys don't step up, we may have wasted one of the best offenses this team's ever had since 1968. They became a team. I mean, I honestly feel that way, that we are going to waste one of the best offensive production seasons in the history of the organization.
Yeah. That's a powerful statement. And honestly, I 100% agree. I mean, you look at this team and you look at the defensive stats, and we're talking currently right now, the Bengals are 20th against the pass, which is actually surprising because it looks worse than that. But they're 26th in total yards. They're average giving up 32 points a game, which is, as you can imagine, the highest in the NFL. And they're 30th against the run. So they're near dead last against the run. They're bottom 5 in total yards given up, and they're giving up the most points. So here's the thing. You can be in the 15s, 20s, in pass yards given up, 15, 20s in rushing yards given up, but your average points per game has to be low, right? And if this defense wants to single out an area where they can be good because they've been good recently, that's the red zone, right? So there's the old adage that defense wins championships. Well, in the modern era, an elite offense can win you a championship, just like an elite defense can. The difference is an elite defense can win you a championship with a bottom feeder offense. An elite offense can't do that with a bottom feeder defense.
No.
You got to have an average defense.
We've seen that the last 3 weeks.
So you look at this team, and if they can even if they don't pick anybody up in free agency, and I 100% agree, they should attack this with the $18 million I think they got in cap space, whatever it is, before the trade or before the free agency deadline. But hoping that they do and will they are two different things. I know the history of this team, and I don't think they're going to. So what is it that they can do to get better? Well, they can damn well play better. I mean, honestly, I've been frustrated with Lou, but I will say, guess what? They blitzed way higher rate this week than they did last week, which was something
41 times.
Right.
41 times.
But guess what? They gave up 30 first downs. 30. And I'm going to go ahead and say it, even though we all hate the Ravens and we dislike Lamar Jackson. If the Bengals were playing any other quarterback on Sunday, they would have won. I truly believe Lamar is one of one in a couple of the plays he made.
Yeah.
Can Burrow scramble and make throws that nobody else can play on his best days? Yes. And that's what makes him special. Same with Patrick, same with Josh Allen, and Lamar is at that level. There was plays during that game that, I mean, the Sam Hubbard being stiff-armed twice in one play and him making a throw to the back of the end zone, I mean, it's embarrassing from a defensive standpoint, but it's I mean, that's what happens when you have good players and you have guys that aren't making the plays they need to make. And I think that's what this defense comes down to is in the moments this year when the defense needed to make plays, they've not. They've capitalized. Yeah, they capitalized and recovered the fumble in overtime. They got a pick in the Chiefs game and a couple turnovers. But if you're giving up 32 points a game and you're dead last against the rush and you're
none of that matters.
None of it matters. So what can they do to get better? And I've seen that question a lot. They have to tackle better, rally to the ball, and red zone has to get better. If you can bring your average points per game down, the Bengals can win more than they lose the rest of the season. Will that equate to playoffs? It just depends. Actually, it looks like we got Coach Ray joining us. Let's see if we can get him in here. We're getting ready to move on to week 6 here. There he is.
Who Day brothers?
Who Day?
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, that's not the look we want. I think we want this one. There we go.
Apologies for the late arrival, man. Was in a Zoom meeting, the Pee Wee Football League.
You're good. You're just in time. We're getting ready to move into week 6, Sunday Night Football against the Giants.
How you guys doing? Doing good?
Doing good, man. We're good. We're dealing with the heartbreak that was Sunday. And
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of variables there, man. You can point one finger at, but at the end of the day, man, that's football,
100%. You are what your record says you are.
Well, we're talking defense right now. Is there something you want to add to that before we move on to week 6 and the Giants?
No, I was in the back. I was in the studio. I was listening to what the real Reg was saying, man. I agree with him 100%. I mean, he pretty much said it. I mean, it's
yeah. I mean, one more thing.
They made the big play in the moment, even though we didn't force that fumble. We still recovered that fumble, And I mean, that was the moment that kind of redeemed everything else prior to it. All the points, everything Lamar did, everything went right out the window the minute he fumbled that ball. Unfortunately, man, we couldn't capitalize. I mean, do we still call him Money Mac? That's the question, right?
Yeah. I think the holder had a big part to do with it, right? But
one more thing I wanted to.
Oh, go ahead, Bengal Bob.
I was just going to say one more thing I wanted to add. Now that you're on here, I know I've joked around with you a lot, about Dax Hill. I think that is like an extra incentive, because he's gone for the year. You need to make a move. You need to make a move here because there's a drop off even after Dax Hill.
Dax has been probably our best corner this year, and teams have noticeably went after Cam. There's been something on tape that people seem to think they can beat Cam. Part of it was, I think, Cam, and part of it was Dax being a good athlete.
But this is a team that's allowing a lot of explosive plays, and now you lose on another corner. I'm really hoping that they make a couple moves here. I think they need to really badly.
I hope so.
Well, I mean, we've been so focused on protecting Joe, that the defense has kind of taken a back seat,
Well, I think this is one of the best offensive lines we've had in years, so it's time to focus. And you got some money. The trade deadline ain't for 4 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, whatever it is. But let's make a couple moves here.
Yeah. And let's get into week 6 against the Giants, Sunday Night Football. And I'm gonna flat out say it. This is one of the most expensive offenses in football. May not be right this second, but it's gonna be within the next calendar year once Jamar gets paid, because the Bengals have money in the O-line. T's on a heavy franchise tag. Chase is obviously going to get his deal. Burrow, one of the highest paid quarterbacks. Sunday Night Football, the world's watching. Giants don't have a great defense, and our defense is – we just talked about it. So this is a game in front of the world. They got to go out and play like they played this week, like they played last week. We'll obviously get into our predictions and stuff, but I think this is a game that every game here on out's a must win. But games like this, when you're facing a team that you should be able to beat, even if it's the NFL, and even if this team is playing better than most people expected, which they are. The Giants have been better than Daniel Jones has played well. Excuse me. This is the beginning of every week being a playoff game for the rest of the season. So I hope Bengals fans, everybody's been stressed out there, going off. You might want to save your voices. You might want to save some energy because every week from here on out is a playoff game. The Bengals have to win every game. I mean, literally almost every game the rest of the way out, especially against opponents that should be very beatable. And that starts this week. I mean, that's just the truth.
Well, I agree with you. And, especially the next four are very winnable games. It'd be nice to be 5-4 rolling into Thursday night football to get our revenge for what just happened with this bullshit this past week. But at the same time, even though we are, like Belichick said, this is probably one of the best 1-4 teams he's ever seen offensively wise, right? We're going to get everybody's best damn shot because that's Joe Burrow over there with that team. That's one of the elite offenses and elite quarterbacks of the league. A lot of teams are like, this could be a little bit of a measuring stick to see if we can hang with an offense like that. And they're going to give us our best shot. And if the defense can just cut down on the explosive plays and, stop, what they have, 30 first downs Sunday? Is that what they allowed, 30 first downs? I mean, cut that in half. And then this team's going to win some games because of this offense. But one thing that scares me to death is if somebody on offense, knock on wood, goes down and then we're not putting up the points that we're putting on, then things can go to hell real quick, fans. I'm going to tell you that right now.
I'm glad you just put that out.
Why would you?
I said knock on wood. But
it doesn't matter.
I think the Giants,
all due respect,
the Giants are going to give us their best damn shot. And I'm telling you, it's going to be a tougher game than people think because Giants do have weapons. I've watched the Giants play, a couple times this year. Malik Neighbors is not a joke. I mean, he's like a little junior Jamar Chase out there. They've got some weapons. Daniel Jones has played a lot better than people thought he would. So, by no means. And, on top of that, this team is historically bad on Sunday Night Football on the road. But I believe this can be the start of a win streak because the Bengals are going to have a win. We're going to have to, have one of those 4, 5, 6 game win streaks to get back into this thing. I mean, there's no way around
that. Statistically speaking, the Giants are a better team than us. Maybe not offensively.
But ain't no Daniel Jones gonna fucking hang with Burrow. If the defense can get some stops.
Got to hang with our defense, dog. That gave up 31st. Go ahead, Ray.
Right now, Vegas odds are giving 3.5 to Cincy being the favorite.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, I think that's a miscalculation because again, analytics don't take a lot of things into account, and I'm the firm believer. I mean, I agree with both of you. It's a must win. I mean, for the next 8-10 games is a playoff game for Cincinnati. I disagree with you, Bingo Bob, when you say our next 4 opponents are kind of light and we should be able to win these games because again,
they're very winnable.
It would be true if we played against certain teams, but unfortunately, we play the Browns right after the Giants, and then we have the Eagles in our house, which also is not going to be again a very winnable game. Man, we were supposed to have the 3rd easiest or 4th easiest schedule, and it's quickly turning into probably in the top 10 toughest schedules.
No,
again, nobody thought Washington was going to come out and do what they did.
That's been the only surprise on our schedule. The Browns are a dumpster fire. The Browns are a dumpster fire. They are horrible. Their coach, their fucking coach is trying to call in a play, and Deshaun's taking himself out of the game. Like the Browns are over. Their fans are becoming
divisional match.
Commanders fans. I mean,
Ohio And for some reason, it doesn't matter. We've been
In the past, you're right. You're right. In the past, but right now, it's a little different this year.
We've been down this road before where numerous times our opponent is absolute a dumpster fire, like you said. But for some reason, we end up winning the game by fucking 2 or 3 points, bro, every single time. Instead of us coming out with that mentality and just smoking a team, we play down to that team. Cincinnati's fucking known for this shit, bro. We've done this shit for decades. Like, it doesn't matter. And occasionally we'll surprise you and we'll blow out a team that nobody thinks we're going to blow out, like we did the Ravens. We smoked their asses last year in that game. So again, but when we play against teams that we know they're trash or they're in fire, basically running down a hill, for some reason we play down to them. And it's not the boat race that we both of us, think it should be.
One thing's for certain.
This is different.
Right. The Browns play us different than everybody else.
They do, but this offense is different.
The Browns have had our number. The Browns have had our number for sure.
I don't care what anybody says. There's no way Deshaun Watson and that Browns offense can hang with our offense, regardless.
I 100% agree.
Now, their defense is good enough to limit us,
but again,
there's no way.
Is nearly the worst in football. So
it is.
It really, both of what you said rings true, because if the defense can get to be playing just average ball, then the next 4 games are very winnable games. If the defense plays how it's played through 5 games, I think any one of those teams minus the Browns can put up points on us. Daniel Jones and their offense can score in bunches.
The Eagles, the Raiders.
The Eagles have weapons. The Raiders have weapons, and Devontae. So it really,
if he's playing though, so some of these other teams got some shit going on too.
These next 4 weeks, if the defense plays just, I don't know, a third better, the Bengals can boat race some teams. If the defense plays how it's played this week, or God forbid worse, then the Bengals are in dogfights the next 4 weeks. Because every week is a playoff. The tension and stress on the players is massive right now. So when you're under that much stress and tension, it's hard to play well. It's hard. I mean, that's why playoff games have a different feel, because it's literally do or die. And the Bengals have that feeling right now as we speak, just 50 minutes from here. And they're grinding their teeth. And I'm telling you, the Giants better become ready to play. And if the defense can come ready to play for the Bengals, then this should be a boat race. But
and this team will
Daniel Jones gets running around and Neighbor starts getting loose, and let's be honest, our defense led it that way, we're going to be in another shootout. Because right now, the way this defense is played, the Bengals got to score, 30-plus points every game to win. And this may not be any different of a week.
In some weeks,
I was kind of hoping they'd get on the phone today and call LA and say, hey, let's make a deal and bring Bosa to Cincinnati.
That'd be crazy.
That's one of the biggest rumors in the NFL is Bosa's considered tradable piece to their organization. Let's make a move like that.
That'd be sick.
It would be. I think we're going to win 10 games, personally.
Bro.
Call me crazy, but I'm telling you, I think the defense is going to get better. I mean, they can only get better. I don't think they can get much fucking worse here, guys. If they can just slowly get better, if the offense stays at this pace, knock on wood, and they stay healthy, this team's going to win 10 games. We're going to get into the playoffs, and then anything's possible.
Nick Hyde on Facebook. What's up, gentlemen?
What's up, Nick?
Listen to
all I know is that
I'm for real.
All I know is that this offense right now is as good as it gets in the league. And for us to win 10 games, we would have to go 10-3 the rest of this year.
Very, very
capable.
Yes.
Yeah. But I'm telling you right now, it's impossible to keep up the production that this offense is starting to get into. They're going to have some down games. And if you're
that's what people say about the greatest show on turf. It was impossible to keep doing that.
I know.
This is the second coming, but maybe better.
But remember, that's an anomaly. That's not the norm.
Yeah, well.
And this defense is abnormally bad. So
it's historically bad. It's probably one of the worst defenses we've had in 20 years. But
Ray,
I think it can get better.
I agree. Ray, you want to kick us
it-
off with
it can
predictions?
always get better, bro.
Well, when you're dead, when
Right.
you're nearly dead last
mean-
against the run, you can get better.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one way to go there, bro.
Look how they just stepped up against Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Don't tell me this team can't play better because a team that was coming in this week averaging 220 plus yards rushing the game, and we held them both to 92 yards in the first 4 quarters.
So again, man, I mean, I've had this conversation with other fans out there that's something that Cincinnati has been able to accomplish in the past 2 or 3 years, which is some of the biggest name running backs in the National Football League. We minimized their asses. I mean, think about the AFC playoff game against Tennessee against Derrick Henry. I mean, he was literally running downhill.
Historically, they've kept Henry in check for sure.
And I think he had 49 yards rushing in that playoff game. If he even broke 50, it was only
he would have only had 40 this week if it wasn't the overtime run.
I mean, in regulation, he only had 40. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's one of those things, man. But yeah, I'll kick us off, bro. I mean, consistency, man. That's one of the biggest things, I try to preach as a coach, and because that's what pays the bills, man, is consistency. So, if we could be consistent, we can get that same offense we just seen against Baltimore's defense, which is one of the best defenses in the league. I think you're right. We could possibly boat race them, man. But at the end of the day, I think we're still trying to find ourselves as a team, as a whole. And I don't think it's going to be a boat race, man. I think it's probably going to be an ugly game. And I got us winning 24-19.
All right.
I don't think it's going to be a very, very big blowout, man. Again, I think we might see some other players step up, or we might just see the Joe and Jamar show, which it seems like they're finally starting to find each other again. There's been all this confusion, it seems like, with T, and you throw Yoshi in this mix, you throw Irwin in this mix, and like you see that connection they had in that game, like that. They looked like they were back in college again together playing football. So if they can continue that, man, I mean, I think it probably could get out of hand and be a boat race. And if that's the case, we're looking at high 30s and them in low teens. But I don't think it's going to happen, man. I think it's going to be a juggernaut game. I do. 24-19.
Bob, you want to go? You want me to go?
Shoot, Reg, go for it.
Well, I'm going to be as cliche gets, right? But I think that it holds so true to this team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And it's the old adage of control what you can control. And that's all they're doing this week is taking it practice session, a film session a day at a time, because that's all the teams are doing around the league. And this team right now, especially on the defensive side of the ball, they just got to control the shit that they can control, dude. I mean, assignment, alignment, effort. I mean, you learn that in elementary school. You reinforce it in middle school and high school. The best high school teams master it. The best college teams have mastered and taken it to a master class. And pro guys have broken their own glass ceilings and have, taken their techniques to minute differences between, where they are at the start of their career and the end of their career. And wherever you fall on the spectrum, at the end of the day, you literally just have to go out and do your job. And that means if you're an edge player, you're setting the edge and you're forcing everything back inside you. If you're a corner and, you're the deep guy, you got to get back. I mean, it's simple stuff that this defense continuously has been failing on all year, which is why coaching does have to be held accountable. But at the end of the day, Lou can only put guys in so many spots where if Sam Hubbard, who's a veteran, who's been a captain on this team, is getting stiff-armed by Lamar Jackson and Lamar is getting hit, falling out of bounds and throwing to the back of the end zone for a touchdown. I mean, you can't game plan for that. There's no scheme. There's nothing that you can do. The only thing you can do is make the play when it's presented to you. And that's what this defense has to do. Week in and week out, they just got to get stops in some big moments. They got to get better in the red zone because, just being honest, they're not going to go out and get anybody in free agency, bro. I mean, they're not going to go out and improve this and spend cap money. As much as we want to say that they're going to, it's not going to happen. So, and no coaches are going to get fired. I hate to break that news to people.
What's your prediction, bro, on this?
My point is, this game.
we went off down a road there for a minute.
This game comes down to that, because if this defense can make just a handful of those plays, I think the Bengals are going to boat race the Giants. And I don't want to eat my words and be sitting watching the game on Sunday night and Daniel Jones is popping off. But if this defense can suck up their pride and make just a handful more plays, I see this game being 31-17, 31-21. You know, I mean, it's the NFL. Your teams are going to score. But, man, people can't score 41 points. When you put your offense puts up 36 points and you get defense gets a safety, you got 38 points, but 35 the week before, 32 the week before that. I mean, the Bengals shouldn't have to score 30 points, 31, 35, 38, 40 points to win games. So I think this week, above all else, is a week that the defense can get right and make a few more of those plays. Stay off the field and let the offense go win the game. I'm going to say 31-21 Cincinnati.
Nice. I don't know what else to say besides Burrow's going for perfection, and he has to, unfortunately, with this defense. Giants do have some weapons, yada, yada, yada. I don't think this game's close. I think the defense actually steps up this week, rises to the occasion, because it's, you've had 3 straight weeks now where you've been super disappointing and super, super fucking bad. I think Burrow's standing on the sideline in the fourth quarter and they've pulled him out of the game. We're so far ahead.
Damn.
Now, that's not saying the Giants aren't going to score, because the Giants are going to score. But my score prediction is going to be 44-27. And Jake Browning is taking the last series on the field.
Might as well let Jake throw one up, break 50, dog. Woody woo! That'd be awesome.
I think the Giants through the first 3 quarters are going to score enough for Burrow to keep cooking and just taking the offense down the field. I think we exceed 40 points this week. I really do. They're on pace to do that.
I'd love it. Any final thoughts on this game, best bet or anything?
One more thought. 2012, 12 years ago, the Bengals were 2 or 3 games below 500 coming into a game against the Giants, and then went on to win 7 of the last 8 games. And I'm telling you, this is going to be the start of a nice run for us.
Ray, final thoughts on that or any best bets?
It starts Sunday night.
No, man. No. I hope Bingo Bob's right. I hope you're right with your prediction, man. Unfortunately, I think we're just going to end up playing down to him, man. I think it's going to be one of those games. I think we're going to do the same thing in Cleveland, and I think obviously I think we're going to win these games. I mean, obviously I think we're going to win these games, but it's going to be a lot closer than what people think, man. Until we find that real identity and we get some, our defense in order. I mean, this is going to be the result, man. Like, we're going to be matching those offenses every single game, trying to win a game.
Yeah.
Except none of the teams left in the schedule other than the Ravens have an offense that's even close to ours. So all we need the defense to do is just get to 16, 17 average, and we're golden.
I mean, we've had that offense though for the most part, man, against the Patriots. What we do in that
That's
game.
the only outlying game, dude, was the Patriots game. Other than that, I mean, that's it. That was week 1. Dude, that's so far. And like I said, like I told you, get to week 4, week 5, but we're not even worried about week 1 no more. Week 1's the farthest from my mind right now.
Well, I agree that week 1 doesn't matter, but it also doesn't matter because we've lost 3 other games.
Right.
But before we wrap that up and go on to Cincy's Finest 5, your best bet of the weekend, find on the betting site that has the Bengals at 2.5 and take the Bengals with the points. Because then a field goal wins the bet, even if the Bengals only win by a field goal. So get on the bet apps, find a bet that the Bengals are a 2.5 point favorite, and bet on the Bengals to cover. Because even if they only win by a field goal, they're going to cover the points. If you go on one of the apps where the Bengals are sitting at -3, then it's not a good bet, because if it ends up being a shit show of a game, them winning by a field goal doesn't win the bet. So find the betting up to 2.5.
Another ticket like I did this past Sunday.
All right. So we were supposed to, back before we got our live suspended, we were going into another edition of Cincy's Finest 5, and it was on running back. So we're going through that tonight. And next week, we'll be doing the last offense for a while. We're going to do receivers next week. So that's your preview for next week. We'll do receivers. But after that, we're going to do some defense for a little while. But tonight's running backs. So anybody want to kick off?
I started this Sunday night, bro. Go ahead.
You want me to go? All right. Well, just like every week, these lists, it's a combination. Everybody, your 5, there's what you believe the 5 are. That could be maybe you weigh more in statistics, maybe you weigh more in feel, maybe you weigh more in the fandom, maybe a combination of all of it, which is just how I do it personally. And I think my list is a mixture of career statistics, accolades, and who I've always been my favorite backs in Bengals history. I think Pete Johnson deserved to make the list. I think that he's probably one of the more underrated backs in history. And I think that it was actually pretty tough between him and Joe Mixon at 5 and 4. But Mixon, I think if you're a Bengals fan out there and you don't think Mixon deserves to be on this list, you probably should go look at all the career statistics.
There's something wrong with it.
Mixon is up there in total yards, scrimmage yards, and points. I mean, everything. Mixon has been everything the Bengals needed as a back on and off the field. Rudy Johnson, personally, one of my favorite Bengals backs of all time. Rudy is another one that I think people sleep on in a lot of ways, but if you go look at the career statistics, I think Rudy is much better than people remembering. Even Bengals fans who remember him in high regard. James Brooks, if Corey Dillon wasn't a Bengal, then James Brooks would be the franchise all-time back, in my opinion. But Brooks was great. And and to be honest, I think that really going into one, Dillon, if Dillon might be extremely high end. We're talking about potential Hall of Fame running back.
Should be Hall of Fame running back.
It's probably much closer than people realize in terms of overall production. Yards per carry, Dillon's like 3rd. Dillon's the all-time rushing leader, but there's seasons consistent that were put out there by other backs in Bengals history. Like when Pete Johnson left the Bengals, he was like top 20 in all-time rushing yards and touchdowns, like for the whole league. So, I mean, he was, really good for his era. But Corey Dillon, all-time, and going to be a Hall of Famer. And, CD speaks for himself. Had the rookie rushing record, had the all-time NFL single game record at one point. Still has like a top 5 game. sixth game in NFL history, and all-time career yards leader, and he was the franchise for his time period. So
Yeah.
that's my list: Pete Johnson, Joe Mixon, Rudy Johnson, James Brooks.
Nice. Nice.
Bob, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. You see, mine's a little different.
Oh yeah, Mixon up there, son.
Dude, Joe Mixon has been one of the best running backs this organization has ever had. Obviously, Corey Dillon's number one. I mean, he's still got 2 of the top 5 rushing days of all time. And, when he broke the single game regular season record, not the one as a rookie, dude, he did it on 22 carries. Like, that is the most thing that nobody talks about from that day when he rushed for 278 yards. That was on 22 carries. Three or four of those
was a negative.
3 or 4 of those carries were for 0 or negative yards on 3 or 4 of those carries. And he had one called back that was like a 40-yarder. Like, I know that record was broke, but that has still got to be one of the greatest games ever for a running back in the history of football. Joe Mixon's kind of, there's been like a little bit of a love-hate relationship with some fans with Joe Mixon. I understand some things happened in college. Some people didn't even want him to come here. But at the end of the day, nobody can say that this guy wasn't a great locker room presence. He wasn't a great motivator among men around him. And he's had some of the greatest games as a running back in Bengals history. James Brooks, I caught the tail end of his career as a kid. I remember a little bit, he's numbers-wise, production-wise, he's one of the top 3 running backs in the organization. Rudy Johnson, you can't forget about Rudy. He was a part of 3 Johnsons in a Big Willie era. He had some great games for the Bengals. Great games. Really, one of the fan favorites of that time. And then I rounded it out with Cedric Benson. A lot of people don't realize the amount of yards that he carried for. Cedric Benson, some people feel like it was just like an instant. He was here and gone. Cedric Benson was a big part of the reason we won a lot of games through that time period, was his running style, getting the tough yards for us, getting us. What can you say? I mean, you kind of could have moved Cedric Benson in and out with Pete Johnson or Rudy Johnson at the same time, and it's all on people's preference. But for me, that's my list of the, my 5 favorite greatest running backs in the Bengals history.
Yeah, I like it, man.
Right?
Well, as you can see, so now you guys are making me feel bad, bro, because you make me feel like I snubbed.
Holy shit, dude! You didn't even put Mixon on your list.
No, I'm not, man. I'm not, dude.
I respect it.
Again, bro, this
I don't.
Well, again, man, you can say what you want, but I mean, you made your list of how you felt.
Right.
The real Reg made his list on how he felt, right?
So let's see how you feel.
So again, I mean, dude, I'm a numbers guy. So when you look at the numbers, these are the top 5 all-time Cincinnati Bengal rushers right here. Cedric Benson pulling at 5, just behind Pete Johnson, who's just behind Rudy, who's just behind James, and you got Corey Dillon, the all-time leading rusher. So again, mathematically, these are the top 5 best Cincinnati Bengal running backs of all time. Whether you want to
not the yards.
Absolutely in yards. Look it up.
Nobody. You look it up here.
I don't need to look it up.
Reg, pull up the top 5 rushing leaders right now. Joe Mixon is right there at the top. Sorry, Ray.
Pull it up. So you got Corey Dillon at 1 with 8,061 yards. You have James Brooks with 6,447 yards rushing. Then you have Rudy Johnson at 5,742 yards rushing. Pete Johnson at 5,420 yards rushing. And then Cedric Benson with 4,176 yards.
How many yards are you showing for Joe Mixon?
Are the top 5.
Show me. you're fatally
You're
messing
upset.
something up
You're
there, bud.
upset right now, bro. You're upset right
Because
now.
you're incorrect,
Because
and we're a
I
podcast
am
about
not
being correct on numbers.
Yeah. Actually, Mixon is third in yards at 64-12.
Exactly.
Where the
Corey's
hell
at
are you
80.
seeing that at?
Corey's at
I don't know
80-61.
what you're looking at, but he's
James
top 3
Brooks is
rusher in Bengals history.
Yeah, Dylan's at 80-61. James Brooks is at 64-47. Joe Mixon's at 64-12. Here,
That sounds about right.
Hold on a second here, boy.
That sounds about right.
I got a little something to show here. Oh, wait.
I mean, if that's your list, that's cool. Those are your favorite, but don't say that it was just on rushing because Joe Mixon's top 3 rusher in the history of this organization.
Yeah, I tried to add a screen on there, but
I tried to add a screen on there.
I have the function, but I was trying to figure it out without taking us off the screen. But I can't figure it out.
I mean, that's a good list. I just wanted to.
Dylan's at 80-61. James
Right.
Brooks at 64-47. Mixon's at 64-12.
6,400
Mixon was
yards.
35 yards
He is
shy
at
of passing
64.
James
I
Brooks.
just found it, bro. I don't know where I was on the Bengals app.
Mixon's was only 35 yards shy of passing James Brooks on the all-time list. Either way, great list, guys.
But I think Mixon has more all-purpose yards.
Yeah.
Than James, I think.
Well, I can tell you right here.
Scrimmage yards from scrimmage, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Oh, well.
But there's nothing wrong with that list. It's still a great list of running backs. So.
Yeah, those are good lists. Any final thoughts or anything you guys want to talk about or bring up, or questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I really wanted to put Icky Woods on that list, man, just because I love Icky.
Yeah.
If it would have been best celebrations by players, it would have been a list that had Chad Johnson 1 through 4 and then Icky Woods at 5.
Right. I mean,
so next week, since he's fine as 5, okay? Next week we'll do receivers, right? And then the following week we'll start defense. I'm not going to let the people know yet what the first defense is going to be position. So next week's the last offensive position for a little while. And then we're going to go defense for a while. So, but yeah, great hanging out with you guys and talking. And the numbers are definitely down.
Man,
since
the season's
show, man.
But
closing thoughts. The season's not over, fans. So anybody watching this, who's gonna watch this or listen to this, just try to stay positive because a lot can happen. A lot can still happen.
Winning,
it's not like our division or world. Yeah, it seems like the Ravens are world beaters, but we were a fumbled, botched, play from winning that game, and everybody's talking totally different. So, the season's not over. I don't care what anybody says. We got to go in Sunday night. We got to beat the Giants, and we got to roll off 4 or 5 wins in a row here. And then, if come that Thursday night game, we're rolling into Baltimore at 5-4. Wow. Even all the asshole talking heads, it'll be a totally different conversation. Totally different conversation. Is this the battle for MVP? Because even though we're 1-4, even though we are 1-4, if this team can go on a huge fucking run to the point where they can't deny Joe Burrow MVP, because we started 1-4, but his numbers are going to be there, and the pressure on a quarterback to turn a 1-4 season around and go on a massive run with his numbers, you have to talk about him with the MVP race. I don't give a fuck who you are. That Thursday night game, we're rolling there 5-4. That will be the conversation. That will be the conversation. Wow. One of these two guys at this point is looking like they're going to be the MVP this year. Is this the battle for that game? Or the battle for, maybe not. Maybe not. What's bullshit is Lamar won the MVP last year in 2022. And 2022, Burrow's numbers were better than Lamar's last year, and Lamar won a fucking MVP. So I know we've started 1-4, and no one's mentioning Burrow anything to do with MVP talks. Even though if we were sitting here 3-2, they would be. I still think he
Do
still
you
has a
really
damn good
care?
shot at MVP.
Do you really care that much? Like
I don't care that much, but I care to the point to where when we have players like Joe Burrow that play the way they do and is in the verge of having one of the greatest seasons as a Bengals quarterback in the history of the Bengals organization. He's doing things that nobody around the league can do, other than a select few players. Hell yeah, I care. Because if he helps turn around a 1-4 season and we go on a run, you better believe he deserves to be in talks for MVP. And Zach Taylor will deserve to be in talks for Coach of the Year.
So I guess if you would have asked me 5 or 6 years ago, man, I might have cared a little more, But I think the MVP is kind of a joke, I mean, they don't take real players and they consider. No, it is. It's been a joke. The same way the Pro Bowl's been a joke, bro. Like it's fucking laid waste to bullshit, is what it is. It's become.
That's all a popularity contest.
Absolutely. That's all it's become, man. So again, I don't care about the MVP. If Burrow can make history, I mean, he's a good quarterback to do it. He's already done it for our franchise. So that's what it comes down to. I think the biggest goal we should have is getting to 4-4, to getting to 500, digging ourselves out of a hole, standing on our 10 toes, and then making a march. Because if we lose another game before we get to 500, the season will be over. It's that simple. If we can't get to 500 before we lose another game, you might as well just count us out, boys. Again, that's my opinion. But
this team's not out of it until they're mathematically not. So they're mathematically out of it, dude. I don't care what anybody says. A couple
weeks. If we lose another game, it's going to be mathematically.
Not happening, bud. We're going to be 5-4 rolling into Baltimore.
Ready to get revenge. Are in the AFC. You can't get in with a 9 and fucking.
Which the AFC's not been what it was projected to be. Now has it? Even though the Chiefs are 5-0, offensively they fucking suck. I mean, let's be honest. They that's the difference. In a play here or a play there. Throughout the season, a play here, a play here. We could just as easily be 4-1 as 1-4. The Chiefs could just as easily be 1-4 as opposed to 5-0. Just as easily. You know what I mean? Like, we're not out of that.
Go ahead.
I think 9 games may get you in a wild card, even though before the season started, we thought, well, you're going to have to at least 10, 11 wins. I'm not so sure of that now.
I am. I'm still sure of it.
I'm okay. We'll read and disagree.
Well,
absolutely.
My closing thoughts. I just want to say everybody needs to take a breath.
It's like, fuck you, man.
Not just us, Bengals fans in general. Because honestly, we can sit here and talk about 5-4, 4-4. Only thing that matters is being 2-4. I know that sounds stupid, but
no, I get
this team right now, like Burrow said, I'm not thinking about the playoffs. I'm thinking about this week. I'm thinking about today, Wednesday. Today's Tuesday, I know. But like, take a breath. Winning cures everything. Offense is having its best start in who knows how long. I mean, I'm sure we actually know, but I don't know. Defense has got to get better. We know that.
They have to. They have to. Now, what I will say is if we go get our asses kicked on Sunday Night Football to the Giants, this team's really close. This team will be really close to losing part of this locker room.
If the Bengals lose this week, I'm deleting the Facebook page, this app. Don't call me. Don't text me.
Oh, shit. Oh, dude. No, you're going to have to start to worry about the locker room.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not worried about the locker room.
We go get our ass kicked on Sunday Night Football, we're going to be worried about it.
The Bengals fans are they're both the heart, soul, passion, the toxicity.
And next time in overtime, go for the kick on 3rd down. That way, if you fuck it up, you can go for it again on 4th down. That's my only thing. That's a learning. That's a learning moment for this team. I hope.
Well, we appreciate everyone who stopped through tonight, and I don't disagree with that. I mean, we've talked about.
No, I don't either. Thanks for your wisdom there, Bingo Bob.
You know, if you're watching this in days come, like and subscribe on Facebook and YouTube.
Please do.
Twitch.
We appreciate you.
We're live every Tuesday night, 8:30. It's been weird the past few weeks. We've had technical issues. We got banned.
But let's get back. Let's get back to it.
And hopefully, our numbers are starting to pick up.
Do it.
Really, we do this so we can talk with people and bullshit, talk ball, have comments.
Have some fun.
Yeah.
What it's about.
We argued a lot less this week. Things.
Yeah, because Ray wasn't on here the whole time.
No, that's part of it.
Yeah. Man, I know, dude. I know. You know what?
Dude, let me see that hoodie, Ray.
Our season is over.
Let me see that hoodie, man. Show me that hoodie, Ray. Let me see that hoodie. Oh, dude, I like that.
He ain't wearing no pants. Don't stand all the way up, guys.
We don't want to see your tidy whities.
All right. Thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for showing up, guys. If you're watching this in days to come, we'll be live here again next week, 8:30 p.m. Tuesday night.
Talking about our big win on Thursday Night Football. Let's go.
Sunday Night Football.
Absolutely.
Sunday Night Football. My bad. I got Sunday night against the Ravens. Already thinking ahead. Damn it.
All right. Everybody have a good night.